Welcome to the Scoop World Order. I got my guy repping G Fit. You got Gigi's gear on. She working you out, coach?
Well, any chance to rep or to promote G Fit, who I'm a big fan of G Fit, you know that.
Hey man, you gotta plug your girl, man, because Nikki's got her Excel well stuff, which is great. And Gigi's got her online trading thing, which is also great. So that's really cool, man. So how you been? I know you've been busy. No big news this week with the Michigan game getting canceled and Ohio State wondering if they're going to the championship game. What's your reaction to that whole deal?
Like Buckeye Nation, like the great state of Ohio, absolutely devastated that that would even have a chance to happening. But I do understand. I kind of saw it coming last week when the Wolverines had things started popping up. Uh, so just devastated for the players on both sides. I mean, that's why you go play at those two universities to go play in this rivalry, and people understand there are great rivalries across this great land, but nothing like this one. So just devastated. But I talk to Ryan almost every day, Coach Day every day, and can E plus R equals O. You can't control the events, control your response, and move forward. And now you're in the Big Ten championship, so there's going to be an asterisk in 2020 for the rest of eternity.
In your opinion, should the kids get gold pants?
No.
Or no? Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, that's like kind of something people have been asking. Like, should they? I mean, they're pretty big favorites, but I don't know. That stinks for the seniors because man, getting that fourth pair of gold pants, it puts you in a really rare set of group. And
yeah, can you imagine in our lifetime that you ever say that there'd be a 30-point spread? So I don't. It's just everything right now to me just seems off right now.
Yeah. So we got Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game. We've had all of these like kind of built-in bye weeks. Like essentially we got another bye week. How hard is it? Like one thing that I always admired about you is you always kind of knew exactly how hard to go on a team and kind of when to draw it back a little bit. Cause we don't have a game this Saturday and we've had, 3 games get canceled. How hard do you go and practice the rest of the week? Would you scrimmage on Saturday to have like a mock game to kind of keep the guys in the, in the rhythm, or do you take advantage of the rest? Like, how would you go about that if you're the head coach in this situation?
Well, you remember when you're on our staff, I'm a huge believer in routine. I have it. Great players like you had routines, and if you're a good player, a great player, you have a routine, and if not, I can promise you need one. Because that just gets your mind right. I've always been a big believer about being mentally ready to play that game. Obviously, physically ready as well. But, you eat a certain thing every Wednesday night. You do something every Thursday. And the great players, great teams, great programs, I've been around there. There's a set routine. And that's been blown completely apart. We're going to actually cover that in detail on Big Noon Kickoff, starting at spring practice to summer training to training camp. So Ryan Days, he has to have, and I told him, and I've always told, same thing Lou Holtz told me, your obligation is to have that team, the 2 words, game ready, when the foot hits the ball. And a game ready means, okay, just you got to be creative here and maybe do something a little unusual to get them refocused. The thing you can't do is just go out and have another practice. The players are done. I can just see it right now. The players, you stand in front of that team and say, okay, guys, we're going to go practice today. I'd be like, why am I going to practice? You're playing for the championship of the Big Ten Conference. You have to be ready a week from Saturday. So, yeah, I would imagine they would have some type of game-like situation. I would practice them as hard because the one thing about hard practices are, and you remember this, I want players focused on getting through practice, on surviving this difficult practice. And then afterwards, that feeling, a great feeling, you got better. It was hard. Yeah, you can complain a little bit, but deep down you're like, that was a good one. And then you start backing off. So I would imagine he would play some type of game before Saturday. I wouldn't do it Saturday. That's if you have a minor injury, you want to have him ready for that game.
What's amazing is you talk about how hard practices are and going good on good. And I talked to some of these young linemen that actually got in the game and they got to start and play significantly for the first time in their careers. And one of the best comments is said that was way easier than practice, because in practice you're going against Nick Bosa or Chase Young or Jonathan Cooper or, and they got out there against Michigan State like, God, this is way easier than I thought it was going to be. And I always admired that about you because you always wanted like practice to be harder than the game. It was like the Michael Jordan quote, and talk a little bit about that and how that gets us ready.
Yeah, if you remember the Michael Jordan quote, I put it all over the facility. I had it in the weight room. I had it in the locker room. I found a place right in the entranceway by a drinking faucet. I just wanted players to live that, and that was one of the greatest feelings in the world when a player would tell you, "Said, man, Tuesday's practice was harder than that game," and inside you're saying, "Job well done as a coaching staff." That's what it's supposed to be. Game is payday. Practice is not payday. Practice is you're investing, but payday, that's your game. And having it's a little bit like preparing for a physics test. Physics test, when you take the test, that's payday. That's not time to prepare. Your preparation is leading up to that. So you walk in and you kill that test. Same thing with a game.
Yeah, I always love that about you. Talk a little bit about, you used to always make a big deal about having a +1 day. Maybe explain a little bit, because like I've been telling people, like we got like a +5 day now, because when we get a bye that we're not anticipating and the opponent's playing, it's like, tell them a little bit about that extra day or extra days of prep and how you can take advantage of that.
Yeah, later on, some of the guys I got real close with, players, they thought they hated hearing that +1, because in theory, what you did is you went out Monday, you gave them Sunday off, and then Monday, and the whole idea was to have them rested by the time you got the game day. One more day rested, because Tuesday, Wednesdays, your hard work day. I pushed it up to Monday, Tuesday, but then in theory, you're supposed to back off on Wednesday, according to the Paris Campbells and Terry McLaurins and Chase Youngs of the world. We didn't really back off that much on Wednesdays, but that's in theory. So +1 means you get that extra day, full pads on Monday, Buckeye gear on Tuesday, and then spiders, no pads the rest of the week. So that's what +1 means.
Yeah. How, if it is an edge, how big of an edge is it to have the extra days of prep? Because you've had bye weeks in your career, and when you have that extra week to prep for an opponent, especially going into a championship game, talk a little bit about how that can help out a coaching staff and the players if they take advantage of it.
Well, it can help, can also hurt, because coaches with dead time, that's not good. A lot of times you do, getting ready for a bowl game, and I would try to watch it as close as I can and quit adding plays, because you have time on your hand. You start adding things and make it more complicated. Northwestern is not complicated on defense, and they're not complicated on offense. So, having extra days when you're facing a Clemson that is so complicated on both sides of the ball, I think extra days are good, but it also, you got to be really disciplined as a coach. And I would try to help them. Why I would actually have conversation with players. Are we reaching the point this is too much? Because the worst thing you can do is add so much that you slow down a player.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit, the transfer portal, like this has been, probably will be the most active transfer portal maybe in the history of college football. It's like the second year they've had it. Would you ever, the roster management thing is key. And I know that you always gave Mark Pantoni a lot of credit, because he would have to manage who potentially could be going pro, who could be transferring, who could be graduating as a fourth year, junior, senior. Talk a little bit about how that's changed roster management, and how this year potentially with the eligibility and people, like younger kids aren't getting as much playing time because there's only 5 or 6 games. Talk a little bit about the potential impact that could have on this offseason and with recruiting, because your friend Greg Schiano has built Rutgers into a pretty strong team just based on, he's got a lot of good transfers to come in. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, and I think the residual that you have from really, we're going to do a story on this on Big Noon Kickoff, that the residual of the college football playoff, transfer portal, and opting out has really impacted a lot of programs. You really watch closely, and I understand there's no spring practice, training camp, but there's some really, really bad football out there right now. You watch some of these games and you really study them. It's terrible. The quality of football is not very good. Some teams, it's elite. Certain teams are playing at extremely high level. Other teams that maybe lost 14, 15 kids to a transfer, that had your best player. Penn State comes to mind, that, Michael Parsons is a top 10, top 15 draft pick. He's not playing.
Yeah.
Northwestern has an offensive lineman that's going to be a first rounder. Bateman, the receiver at Minnesota, opted out. And then you add in just the roster manager of 14 kids saying, I'm out, I'm leaving. And, we never had to deal with that. I was just, how do you even function that way? How do you function special teams? How do you function practice when 14 players walk out? So what's happened from the college football playoff, Kurt, is the rich have got richer. The hungry, I call them, the middle tier, the good, really good programs, Cincinnati's benefiting, but a little of it's because of schedule. That other programs are really suffering because everybody wants to go to teams that play in the playoffs. No longer is the Rose Bowl good enough, which I disagree with. No longer. I remember we had Denzel Ward came up to me before we played the Cotton Bowl against USC. I think we're top 6, top 7 in America, and decided not to play. I understand, but that's the residual effect, and I don't see that going away. And then the last thing is the transfer portal where, the Ohio State staffs, the Alabama staffs, they're going to have a separate department, and their focus is going to go find maybe that kid at a Bowling Green that's an All-American that's developed late. I had him, Josh Harris. You imagine Josh Harris was a Heisman Trophy candidate for me at Bowling Green. Back now, all of a sudden he gets a phone call from, Florida State or Florida, someone says, hey, I need a quarterback. Why don't you come play? And we just developed this kid for 4 years, and he walks out the door. So I just, once again, the residual effects of transfer portal, open, being accessed immediately. The player can transfer and be open, eligible immediately. The opting out and the fact that everybody wants to go play for these playoff teams, you're seeing the quality of football really drop in some programs. Other programs, it's incredible.
Would you worry with how the portal is and with how kids are that, in theory, recruiting never really stops? If you get a kid who's a freshman, he's not playing, and some other school who's a little more unscrupulous stays in contact. Hey, our guy's leaving. Would you worry about that? Is that a real thing?
Well, first of all, I worry about everything, but yeah, it's awful. I've dealt with it. And I'm going to transfer, and the party will say, good, get the heck out of here, but you can't. They're 17, 18, 19 years old. They're being influenced by the famous third uncle I used to talk about, some clown that has no idea what they're talking about. And they're telling this person he needs to transfer or leave because he's not getting enough carries, he's not getting enough catches, not getting enough whatever. So of course I disagree with that. That's horrible. So Gene Smith has a really interesting perspective on this. If a player transfer, my initial reaction was anger. His was, let's find out why he transferred. Because we have, that this is where recruiting is so important to get people that want to be there. They fit, the brand or the style that you have, and be honest with them in the recruiting process. Make no promises, because once you get them and you make promises, you don't come through those promises, they're out. And very concerning about it. But I'm worried a little bit about the future of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Switching gears again, your friend Greg Studwara basically had the definition. I know you always go to Kenny Guyton talking competitive excellence, but me being a former O-line GA, and if I would have found out both tackles, our center, we got to move guys around, I'm not leaving that facility probably until after the game. Like, I'm in the Woody Hayes sleeping there trying to figure out how to get 3 new guys in the deal. Talk a little bit about competitive excellence and how the O-line displayed it. And we had 3 of those guys were champions, first career major action. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I thought they did a magnificent job. I thought Kevin Wilson is a stud. They recruited well. There's some guys in there that paid their dues. They didn't really put the linemen in harm's way, if you know what I mean. I mean, the ball came out fast. They broke contain. They did 7-man slide protection, which is all very easy, not easy, but doesn't put guys on islands. Linemen don't want to be on islands. And quite honestly, Michigan State's not the same Michigan State that you played against and that we played against.
Yeah.
There was a time where we lined up against that green and white team, and you had NFL draft picks all over the place, and their D line was just ferocious. And they're not there yet. I'm not picking on Michigan State, but that wasn't even close to what the days that you and I saw at Michigan State. So that was really a job well done by the staff at Ohio State.
Yeah, it wasn't the same as when you made the toast in 2012, the famous toast that's in Ohio State lore when we lifted the water glass and everybody kind of just bought in after that. And we beat a good Michigan State team that day. Coach, I appreciate you like always. I don't like to keep you because I know that you're busy, but I love you. You're as good of a Buckeye representative as we've ever had. You and your family are Buckeyes to the core. Can't wait to watch you on Fox, but you're my guy, man. So I appreciate you.
Much